What's up, everybody? Welcome. Just letting everybody come in. How's everybody doing today? Was it Monday? Is it Monday already? Hey, but hey, it's happy Monday, right? Every day of the week is happy, right? None of this, I hate Monday. I hate Mondays. I love Fridays. No. It's an extremely boring mindset, right? Don't fall into the status quo. Don't fall into the cultural temptation of, I'm supposed to hate this day and I'm supposed to love this day and I'm supposed to hate this type of food and I'm supposed to love this type of food and, I can't eat that type of food because of this. And, all you're doing is you're buying into beliefs, okay? But today I want to talk to you about addiction. I want to talk to you about addiction, okay? But obviously as it connects to the work of Neville Goddard. Now, if you follow my work and if you follow my, coaching, and if you follow the videos on here, you know that anytime that I deal with an issue, I start at it from a back door, which means we're going to start talking about stuff right now that doesn't seem very indicative of us exploring states or why are we addicted to some states over others. First and foremost, we got to talk about how humans are addicts. Every human on this planet, past, present, and future, is and will be a neurochemical addict, okay? This is very important. You need to understand this before we go into what Neville means by the word state, but then also why are some, and this is very important, by the way, because this is actually going to share with you some new research about what happens with our emotions and why sometimes we get addicted to these patterns, right? And yes, some of them are really easy and be like, okay, it's just safety. Yes, that could be one reason, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about addiction, okay? Because addiction, any form of addiction, whether it be chemical, whether it be has to do with drugs, it doesn't matter. Whether it be OCD, because that's a form of addiction as well. Like, hey, you need to check the lock 2 or 3 different times to feel safe. All of these kinds of things are predicated on something before it. What does that even mean? What that means is, for example, the drug addict has nothing to do with the drugs. Meaning, yes, he's using drugs. She's using drugs to medicate. But medicate what? Because medication means I'm trying to heal something or I'm trying to hide the actual symptom. Most of the time, addicts, and again, this is not about drug addicts, even though you're hearing the word addict, your brain's gonna go to drug addict, right? This is about us as humans, as a species, who we are inherently, naturally, neuroscientifically proven addicts, right? We are behavior addicts. We are belief addicts. We are, love addicts. We are fear addicts. We are whatever it is. We are and do become, through repetition and over time, addicts, okay? So remember, this is all about Neville, but we're gonna come in through a back door. So hope you're doing well today. Say hello. What are you doing for Monday? Let me know. But so basically, when you understand that humans are addicts, right? And this is step one. That's going to lead us to understanding what Neville means when he talks about states, okay? Right? And so, sorry, I'm green eye. Hello. I'm green eyes and under 6'5". Sheila, how are you doing? Good to see you. And so when you understand that humans are a species where we are neurochemically addicted to anything. I mean, like, it could be habits, it could be love, it could be relationships, it could be fear, it could be. So when you hear the word addiction, do not just hear drugs, do not hear alcohol, right? How is your Monday, by the way? What are you doing today? How is life? Fill me in. Right, but this is going to help us understand what Neville means when he talks about states, but then also why states are always fueled by emotions, okay? So there's new research I'm going to share with you, and then we're going to talk about NLP. Yes, you're going to get techniques, maybe 1 or 2 out of this thing that you're going to be able to try to use to help you manifest whatever it is that you want, right? So again, first and foremost, you have to accept this premise. All humans, every human, is neurochemically wired to be addicted to something. Okay. Oh, and by the way, if you don't mind doing the thumbs up there as well somewhere, that helps the algorithm push this thing out. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for being so supportive. Because basically, whenever you are addicted to anything, right, you get dopamine, you get serotonin, you get norepinephrine, which is a form of kind of adrenaline, right? And you feel like, yeah, I can go and keep going and so on and so forth. Here's the thing, so do people with OCD, which is a form of addiction, right? We get addicted to patterns because the brain is constantly looking for patterns. The brain is constantly looking for patterns because it wants to seek out, hey, where's the possible threat here? Because that's where we're gonna spend our time avoiding, right? Now, we obviously have to go in and train our brain, train our mind, train the way we think and feel and react to things from the perspective of not being reactive, right? But the problem is that the brain is and has been trained to be reactive, which means you're living out of reactions. But all of those reactions, every single reaction comes from the past, right? So even the way that you might be reacting to what I'm saying, the way that you react to your best friend hanging out with another best friend, whatever it is, if it causes jealousy, that's nothing to do with your best friend, nothing to do with that relationship, it has to do with your insecurity that you have been taught to normalize, right? And so this is super key to understand when you're trying to grasp the root causes behind why it's so hard to change some states over others, okay? The root cause isn't what's in front of you. The root cause isn't here, okay? So you never look to the outside and say, well, it's because they have more money than I do, or well, it's because of this. So this is the one thing that you have to get rid of, comparison. Okay, now our culture, as in Western American culture, we get trained and conditioned to worship the idea of comparison, right? But comparison breeds things like embarrassment, shame, guilt, right? The feeling of loss. And those all are lenses upon which you do not want to use in your world, okay? So when you live your life in a state of comparison, that means living your life in a state of lack. And it's, oh my gosh, they have a bigger house than I do. And you want to be happy for your friends, but you can't be, right? And so the reason why is because you bought into the lie that you are already less than. Because remember, the object about them having some house or something like that has nothing to do with it. Never. Like Neville says, that we live in a world of symbols, right? What that means is everything stands for something that you don't see, okay? That means a stop sign has nothing to do with a stop sign. It has everything to do with government and the police and power and safety and care for other drivers. It has a host of other symbols or symbolic meanings, right? So does your beliefs. So really what happens is, and according to Neville, is that you're living out your symbols. First through here, but then you experience it here in the stage world. Thank you for the like, right? And so is everybody with me? Like basically like, and I know there's some people in the room, so feel free to say hello, interact with each other, ask questions to each other, not just me, right? And so when we understand that humans are addicts, okay, that means first and foremost, because people say, why is it so hard to change? Why is it so hard to change my state? Why is it so hard? Well, first and foremost, because you haven't accepted the fact that you're an addict. Every human should accept first the fact that they're an addict. And I mean that neurochemically, neuromolecularly, right? I'm talking about the dopamine, I'm talking about serotonin, right? Because all those things are deployed when you're taking drugs. They're deployed when you take alcohol, right? And you get oxytocin depending on if you're in social settings, okay? Music, what's up, Montagano? Oh, Montagno, that's so nice of you to come on here and waste a sentence. Wow, you really, really, really love English. So let's see. So again, music, how you doing? And so what we have to do, right, is actually get to the point where we accept the fact that we're all addicts. That's first and foremost, okay? That's okay to be an addict. Because when you learn that, and you learn how to hack being an addict, okay? Right? Yeah, they will. Yeah, thanks, skis. And so, oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, welcome everybody. So, welcome everybody. Welcome to the channel, by the way. I know there's some new people here. Get to know each other, introduce. I'm Jordan Bridger. I'm a behavioral scientist, social psychologist, trained in neuroscience, but I also use this information to teach you guys, train you guys, coach. I have coaching clients on how to manifest in this world, right? Because this is a world of energy. And I'm making that as a scientific claim, okay? Not as some woo-woo claim where you gotta light candles and burn sage. No judgment if you do that. But Kenyun, how are you doing? Introduce yourself. Yeah, so, but I sobered up because I had my own willpower. That's amazing, by the way. Like, everybody should give you, like, and that's not sarcasm at all, whatsoever. Like, I really wish I could clap without making that look or sound sarcastic, because I'm a clapper. So that's awesome. And, you know, what was your experience while you were an addict? Like, meaning, you know, sorry, I'm gonna pin that because this is the theme for what we're gonna do to help us explain, right? So thank you for sharing, by the way, because I know that for some people that's actually hard to share. But you know, when you realize, okay, every human is an addict. It just depends what we're addicted to. So for example, let's say, and Skis, you can actually share if this is true or not, right? That, you know, when you are stopping the addiction to something that you don't want to be addicted to, you're simply replacing it, right? Even Russell Brand, I don't care what your opinion is of him. If you read his book on addiction, he even talks about a little bit about this. You're never stopping addiction. You're just replacing it. So let's say, for example, somebody who stops it and they try to replace it with, let's say, going to the gym. You haven't stopped being addicted. You're just addicted to something else that's better for you, right? And so again, when Neville Goddard talks about states, and if you're new to Neville Goddard, go ahead and check out his work, right? And he talks about the law as in, hey, there's a law out here that operates on your emotions and on your beliefs and on your thoughts, right? And that's how we manifest. Or I sometimes I don't even like to use the word manifest because people hear it and they think, oh my gosh, that's a weird word and I don't know what it means. No, it just means experience. You are experiencing your beliefs, right? So this is very scientific. This is very psychological. And Neville Goddard was very psychological in his understanding of the law and in his appropriation, and that's what it was, the appropriation of the Bible and the Torah, right? And so when you are trying to grasp what a state is, and I'm going to explain that for the people who are new as well, right? And so, okay, that's a great question, actually. Let me pin that one as well. I want to come to that music. So one, good to see you. How have you been? Thank you for coming back. And if you guys are looking for coaching, everything's science backed. Yes, we talk about manifestation, but everything's backed by science and psychology. Ask my other clients. Some of them are on here. So let's talk about that question. But I want to really get to the root. So of why we're addicted, which actually, music, you're kind of leading me into it. So thank you for that. But when we're addicted, okay, there's an identity being played out. And Skies, you can actually back this up. Meaning you have a certain way of seeing yourself. You have a certain personality. You have a certain, okay, I'm going to justify my addiction with these series of behaviors, with these series of beliefs, okay? So in science or behavioral science, they just call it confirmation bias, which means you're only going to look for reasons that make your decisions make sense to you. Even if those decisions aren't great for you, it doesn't matter. You're going to create logical steps. This is why Neville says get rid of logic. Stop relying on reason, okay? Meaning outward reason, okay? Create the reason inwardly. Are you with me? So at first it was hard to stop being addicted to drugs and alcohol because it became an unfathomable habit. And see, Neville talks about that. He says the imagination, which is where we create everything for in our world, right? In our imagination, it follows habit. This is why I'm talking about addiction so much on this chat today. Because when he says, listen, and he does have nobody focuses on this in his work, but he talks about habit for about 5 minutes. And to me, it's more powerful than almost anything else he talks about. Because what he says is that I leave you, meaning him as your coach, him as your teacher, I leave you to your state and its risk, or I leave you to your desire and its risk. This is very important why he says this, because people will quote that without knowing what he means. What he's talking about is I will leave you to give you what you want out of what you want in life. So if you want a big house, you can have it, you can manifest it, right? Or it's risk, never getting it, right? And so when he is talking about this, he is specifically dealing with the idea that imagination, which by the way, another way to understand imagination is that our brains are always giving meaning to something. They are always active and they are always forming beliefs, and we manifest out of our beliefs, right? Yes. So, yeah. Um, well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, music, because I'm a sociologist. So I study outside stuff all the time. It's my job. I'm paid to do it, right? And so when we talk about outside logic, what we're saying is this is the way the world rules in the way in which it makes sense. Let me use a simple example. When I'm using the word logic, music, and I do see your comments, and I really want to actually to talk them through, and I want to highlight you and spotlight everybody who's commenting. So, and feel free to respond to each other as well. And thank you all for interacting. You guys are all awesome. And so, when I say logic, I'm talking about the way the world operates. Okay, so for example, music, you're like, okay, I want to be an engineer. Well, according to some universities, you have to go to school for 6.5 years. Guess what? I know engineers who haven't done that, and they've learned on the job, and they've actually been better for it, right? Or you can think of like Bill Gates or Tim Cook. Like a lot of these people that we think, oh, they have huge college like degrees and stuff. No, they don't, but they didn't follow the logic of the system. And that's really what it means, is like, don't follow the logic that you've been taught even in your own family systems. So I'm gonna do one talk at one time where we're gonna talk about just about family systems, because a lot of people don't realize that a lot of their limiting beliefs, a lot of their fears, a lot of the ways in which they interpret their world was formed way before they became a teenager, way before they got married, way before they got involved in religious groups, way before whatever it was. And it's literally in child development. And I mean, there's about 5 to 7 psychologists well known in the world: Freud, William James, Sabina Spielrein, Jacques Lacan, like people who are, and Jean Piaget. All these people are saying, hey, child development is the most underappreciated, misunderstood area, because people don't realize that a lot of their fears are developed, right? Right? And so a lot of people don't understand that a lot of their issues didn't come later on in life. It came very early on in life, okay? And so that's why I want to talk about family systems, because the way in which you were raised in any family in the world, in any religious group, I don't care if it was a patriarchal family group like you might find in Islam or whatever it is, and actually in some conservative Christian pockets, right? Whatever it is, that family system will have had a huge influence on you. Even Neville talks about his own journey moving away from his family dynamic, right? Okay, so let me come back to this, because I know I'm kind of loading up on questions here. So music, why do we have addictions? So that's a great question. So why do we have addictions? So addictions are protection. Like, that's the simplest way that I can say this, okay? Because addictions aren't not just protection, meaning they make you feel protected. They make you feel safe. They make you feel in control. So you have experienced something in your life if you are the addict. Now, remember, every human's an addict, right? So you have experienced something in your life that says, I need to feel safe about this. Okay, so some people say, oh, well, people get addicted because it's escapism. Even though I agree with that partially, I don't agree with that fully. Because I really do believe that even if it is escapism, it's still trying to gain control of their life, right? And so ultimately, an addiction in any form is trying to gain control of your life. So even when you switch from a negative addiction to a positive addiction, you are trying to gain control. And it's okay to switch from negative to positive. In fact, in psychology, it's called sublimation, right? And you are taking what is what is considered a negative belief or negative energy. That's not my word. That's actually Freud's, right? And you are sublimating it. You're saying, hey, I'm gonna find something else to use this pent up energy of addiction into something else. So they might become an artist. They might, find some sort of creative outlet, whatever it is, music, right? But you're finding a way to take all this pent up energy that you once gave away to your addiction, and now you're saying, I'm gonna go do something good with it, right? And so in the Bible, that's called transmutation, or the moment where Jesus, who is not real and never existed, goes through the transfiguration. Jesus is your imagination. These are all metaphors, by the way. If you've never heard this, read the work of Neville Goddard. The Bible is not a Christian document. It's not a religious document. It is not a Jewish document in the Torah, all this kind of stuff. It is a psychological document. Everything is psychological. These people did not exist. It's a metaphor for how we use the law. It's a handbook, right? The reason why I'm bringing that up for right now is because if you follow me for 5 minutes, you'll notice I'm breaking it down so that you understand it from that perspective, right? And then you actually end up getting tips and ways to develop yourself as a person, okay? So let me go through. By the way, if you're still asking, I'm making my way down through questions. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And if you're looking for coaching, I do offer payment plans. Everything's science-backed. So let's see. It's like being addicted to racism, but okay. Let's see. But they're linked to each other, but people don't see it as such. Yeah. So exactly. So I mean, like, that actually isn't far off, by the way. Skis or skies is it skies or skis? Is that basically your belief systems, right? Your belief systems, like racism, is something that you can be addicted to. In fact, what you're experiencing in your life is your addiction to certain beliefs. So thank you for actually bringing that up. Because our beliefs are what manifest. Our beliefs are what create. Our beliefs are what normalize our behaviors, right? And normalize our habits. And so when we see other things, like other people doing things, we think, oh, so our mirror neurons kick on. That means there's an area of our brain that says, hey, this is how I learn. So I'm going to actually start learning by looking at what other people are doing. So you might have looked and said, oh, this person is dealing with their issues through addiction. Or, hey, my friends are smoking, so because they're smoking, I must smoke. Again, I don't see anything wrong with smoking like weed or anything like that. But if you're using it for a form of control or escapism, not healthy, right? And so everything is down to intent. Everything is down to using and why you're doing what you're doing. And music, I want to come back to your idea of like, but I don't think we should stop following external logic, okay? So now I study borderline mental health disorders. I'm actually taking a course right now on neurodiversity and stuff like that. So this is an area that, but that's way more loaded than me just taking 2 seconds. I want to make sure I answer everybody else's as well. I believe a lot of us have become addicted to our need for validation. A lot of times our addictions become our identity. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Kenyon, and if you're still commenting, please still comment, please share, all this kind of stuff. Thank you for the likes and please subscribe. I'm gonna probably keep doing this. And again, if you're looking for coaching, get in touch, right? There's a link in my bio to a free Discord group with other people like this. Who are like-minded. That's free, Discord. I write on Reddit a lot about the work of Neville Goddard, but also psychology. And then I also have an email that you can hit me up on. And if the Discord link doesn't work, email me. I'll make sure you get a new one. So let's go back to Kenyon. That's a really, really good point. A lot of times our addictions become our identity. That's what today is about. So Neville has this word called a state, okay? Not 3 beliefs, a body of beliefs. And then he says, the more that you hold on to these beliefs, they become a perception filter, which means that's a way that you see the world. That's where the logic is coming from. So, earlier, music, you were saying we shouldn't let go of the logic, right? Yeah, we should. Because the problem is that the logic is holding the current identity together, right? And so you're like, yeah, I am this way because. Have you ever heard somebody say that way? Well, that's just the way I am. No, you're not. Everybody can change. Neuroscience has even come out and said personality is not permanent. There is no such thing as who you are right now is permanent. There's loads of neuroscientific research that shows that every time you access a memory, true story, sorry, I'm moving around. Every time that you access a memory, every time, there isn't one time, you change it. So that means there's no such thing as a solid memory. So when people are fighting over their memories, like, no, I remember when I was 7. No, you don't. You'll remember certain elements, you'll be repeating certain elements, but you don't know exactly how it happened, when it happened, because the neuroscience research shows that our memories are constantly in flux. They're changing. Hence why Neville's term or idea of revision, and I'm starting an advanced page on Reddit, it's just called NG Advanced Revision. Make sure you join it. We're going to talk about how to revise your memories, which is going to revise you as a person, okay? So yeah, so it definitely becomes your identity. In fact, most neuroscience argues that mainly human identity is composed of this one thing. Yes, other chemicals but memories, repeated memories that are rewarded. Okay, so I am this, and then the more you say I am this, right, then you are telling your brain, reward me. Why? Because dopamine is responsible for several things. We've been taught, oh, it's a reward neuromolecule. It is, but that's not its only function. It's also for physical movement. Did you know that? The more that you repeat physical behaviors with your body, you get dopamine. But then also that's why people will have Parkinson's, because they have lower dopamine reservoir, right? So what you have to understand is that dopamine is also expectation. The more you repeat something, the more you do something, whether it be words, everything, right? Your brain's always recording what you're saying, right? Now, that may freak some of you out, but that's the truth of what it is. And so when you're understanding how identity is formed, you have to understand that 90% of memories, 90% of identity is memories, right? So who you think you are is just because you said, I am a person who is angry because of this. Guess what? What you've told your brain is only access memories that reinforce this. Your brain is a confirmation bias machine, okay? And this actually leads me, in about 10 minutes, we're gonna talk about this. But we're gonna talk about new neuroscience research that shows you why you're addicted to certain emotions and what happens when you train yourself that way, okay? And I'm talking about not good emotions, okay? But and then also why you're manifesting and why it's hard to change the identity, because you're always manifesting from an identity, not an object. You're never manifesting a car. You are manifesting yourself as a car owner, right? Do you hear that? There's a major difference there, right? You don't manifest having a house. You manifest yourself being a house owner. There's a difference, major black and white difference on that. Okay, but we're gonna go through that. Okay, so I totally understand what you're saying with my personal understanding of physical, mental health, care of myself. Paul, share, if you're still around, what do you mean by that? Like, I mean, have you found out some stuff like for your own physical care journey? And please, because other people would love to learn, and I would love to, I'm open-minded, so yeah, I want to replace that one. So question, why is psychologist opinion on Monroe Man opinion on Native Americans' existence has no proof, and he even said that they have no ties to lands? Okay, so skis, so if you can explain that a little bit more. I don't know exactly what that's referring to. I'm a little bit aware of it, right? Oh, Kenyon, you're awesome. Skis. Oh, ski. Okay, so it's not skis, it's skies. Okay, cool. Kenyon. So Raheem, is sexual transmutation a real thing? Is it effective? It's in the book, I think, Think and Grow Rich. Okay, so let me ask you, Raheem, with that question, what is your intention behind, like, why do you want to know that? Like, are you going to use it? Is it, and how do you understand sexual transmutation? I know I'm asking you questions. Is this one, because I want other people to know what you're talking about, if that's okay, if you don't mind explaining. So I'm tapped in. You can only remember the last time you remembered. Yeah, that's exactly it. So, and by the way, your mood changes your memory. This is nuts. The mood you're in changes how you access that memory, okay? And so, Jaron, can sexuality be changed? Welcome, by the way. 100%. I don't believe in sexuality. Like, I mean, I'm non-binary myself, but that's see, I'm more philosophically non-binary. Yes, on my license, I have X, non-binary. I don't go and wear female clothes, but I don't care who does. I do it because I don't see, because this is just a label. Everything you see is a label. A tree is a label. I've shared this quote before, and it's one of my favorites from a friend philosopher of mine, Julia Kristeva. She's actually well known. And she says, you know, language exiles us from the object of our desire. Let me say that again. Language exiles us from the object of our desire. One more time. Language exiles us, which means it ostracizes us from the object of our desire. That means every time you call something and give it a name and a label, well, then what you're doing is you're invoking a history. You're invoking a history of how other people used it, how you use it, all this kind of stuff. So can sexuality be changed? I don't think there is such a thing as sexuality. I think that's social. And remember, I'm saying this as a sociologist. My job is to study things like this, right? And there is something called social construction. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Definitely Google it. There's loads on it. And it basically says that everything that you think, see, hear, and feel is agreed upon by everybody else, including yourself. So for example, if you think stealing is going in to a store and taking something without money, well, then everybody else agrees upon it. Am I saying to go steal? No. What I'm saying is that we have created rules and laws, and we've justified them by having prisons, and we've justified them by having certain codes and certain expectations, and we have a history that we keep pointing to. So history is nothing more than a memory, right? That's all we keep. Oh yeah, but look at 1,000 years ago. They must have did it that way, so we should do it that way. Most of what we do and how we justify is based upon our memories, right? Which is our history. Now, Neville says, stop doing that, because what you're doing is your past proceeds into the future. What that means is we always talk about our past as if it's something that's already happened. He argues, and actually most psychology argues, that you're never not living from your past. So hence why you want to learn to revise your past. So every day he encourages people to revise one memory. This is what I do, so I teach my coaching clients to do, right? And there are better techniques to do it than just to go in and do it, okay? But basically what you want to do is you want to create a scene in your imagination, in your mind, from the first person, not the third person, right? And you want to revise that scene a completely different way. If you grew up in poverty, imagine a scene where you grew up in lavish wealth, right? Whatever it is. If you grew up with abusive parents, imagine they were supportive. And the more that you persist in this, months, maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 7 months, it doesn't matter. It's going to change you because you're changing your memory, which is who you are. So Neville, like I said, has this idea of, and I do want to answer your questions, guys, that basically a state is three things. So if you ever heard of his work, this will make sense to you. If you haven't, I'm going to make it make sense, okay? So he has this word, state, and you need to change state, which means your current state is not where you want to be. So let's say you're poor. Your new state is that you want to be rich, okay? Are you with me so far? So that's all a state is. But they're beliefs. So they're beliefs of, oh, I can point to things. So this is the logic that I was talking about earlier, music, right? And so this is the logic that you want to give up, because the logic is, oh, I'm poor, so therefore I can point to things that prove that I'm poor. That's the logic. You're justifying your current identity. So the addict says, oh, look I'm an addict because I'm this. So one of the things I actually disagree with, Tony Robbins talks about this, and I think they even do this in 12 steps as well, is they always constantly have you accept that you're an addict. I think it's the worst idea ever. And I'm saying this as a psychologist, okay, and sociologist. No, you're not. You're not. Like, I mean, I follow, because I do stand-up as well. So I follow, and I know he's past Robin Williams. And so he would always joke about being an addict. And what you're saying is that, oh, I'm always going to be this person. Well, what you've done is you've limited your capacity and ability and potential when you do that. I get the intention behind it. I get the psychology. I could explain the whole psychodynamic theory of why they have you do that. But I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, because basically you're locking yourself, just like that quote says, language exiles us, which means you actually don't free yourself. You're constantly bound by the limitations of language, right? And so, yes, by the way, by you making claims after whatever you say, I am free, I am loved, I'm accepted, you are binding God, because I am is God. I am is awareness. I am is love. Whatever word that you want to settle with, you don't have to believe in some God out. Actually, please don't believe in a God outside of you, right? Because you are the only God that exists. But every time you put something after I am, you are binding that spirit. You are binding this essence called love. Whatever you want to do, whatever you're comfortable with, right? And so, one of the things that is so important when you're trying to understand Neville's work, okay, is that that it is psychology. It is 100% psychology. And so when he says that you are changing your state, you have to change your habits of that state. Like if you're constantly looking at stuff around you and saying, this is why I'm poor. Oh, look, yet again, I got another bill, right? You've got to look at everything from the new lens, from the new perspective. Or if you're trying to get somebody back in your life, right? And again, I'm going to say this now every time, and I'm probably one of the more unpopular coaches, because I'm coming at this from mental health. Okay, if you are trying to get somebody back in your life, and this is a big thing in the manifestation world, which is called SP, significant. It's basically just trying to get a girlfriend or boyfriend back, right? Or a husband or a wife or a loved one, right? And they've beat you, and they've they've sexually assaulted you, they have threatened you, don't manifest them back into your life. That's not smart. Because what you're doing is you're saying, I'm still in the old state of things. Now remember, a state is just a way of seeing the world. It's a set of beliefs, okay? So most coaches will help you do that. I am not one of those coaches that will. That is the worst thing you could do. Out of 8 billion people, you're gonna say, this one person who used to abuse you is the person you want back in your life. That is a self-concept issue. That means you are seeing yourself as worthy of abuse. Okay, that does not mean that they do not have responsibility, that they themselves should not do whatever they need to do to fix their stuff, but you are not responsible for fixing them, right? Yes, you can fix them from afar by using your imagination and seeing them in the best version of their life, right? So I know this is an unpopular opinion, but it's one I'm gonna settle on. Like Neville says, like, listen, follow the golden rule. And so would I wanna be in that situation? No, I wouldn't want anybody to be in that situation. So I know I've just jumped the ship in terms of what we were talking about. But it's something I'm super passionate about because it's the biggest issue within the manifestation world. People manifesting back abusers. Don't. You never deserve that. Never. Okay, so let me go back to skis here because to clarify what he said is this: we are all human beings. Okay, so we are humans. I believe we are humans, but I think behind the scenes, so if you can think of like humans, right? Like one of my favorite stories is The Wizard of Oz, right? And you end up discovering that the wizard is a human, right? But here's the thing. The problem is the way that that story plays it out is as if it's a lie. Oh, the wizard isn't the big green head, right? No, I would say it's both. I would say we are divine but here's the thing, and I love this about Neville's work. He argues that every time we manifest, no matter how big or small, you can manifest a high five, a handshake, somebody complimenting you. No matter how big or small these manifestations are, every time you manifest, every time you create something in your world that you desire and you're successful at it, that's a moment of wakening up to the fact that you are divine. And again, people really get hung up on words. So whatever word you need to fill in, because I personally don't like the word God. It's too loaded, it's too Western, right? It's too white, male, like oriented and Eurocentric, like domination over blacks and all this kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is that you need to find a word that fits for you. And Lana, I do see what you've wrote, and Kenyon as well. So I'm making my way down. I don't know if you guys see that. Making my way downtown. So do I believe that we're human? Yes, I do. But fundamentally, we're not human in the sense that these are just avatars. These are skin suits, right? So I am, or awareness, is what's driving this skin suit, this ego version of you, right? Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know where anybody else is. Feel free to share your thoughts on this, right? Oh, thank you, Kenyon, for jumping in as well. And so, okay, music. Do they just believe it into existence? This is what I was meant by ignoring external logic. Yeah, so if you're new to manifestation, and please know that I'm very scientific. So meaning I don't hear the word manifestation and I think woo-woo. I don't think of it. I'm not into woo. I'm not into lighting candles, palm readers. Go do that if that's your thing, right? Yes, I'll go and hang out with a Buddhist monk. Yes, I'll go out and do an ayahuasca retreat. Yes, I'll go and smoke pot. But these are things that I want to do. I'm not doing it to try to, I don't need that to reach a higher being or state of being, right? It's just I want to do it. And if I do it with the intent of, hey, I am trying to connect, that's okay. But if you're doing it from a state of lack, that's the problem, because you're saying you don't have it and you need to go do that to find it, right? Same with addiction. This is why we started out with addiction, right? I always have a reason why it seems like what I start out with every single session, it seems like it's not connected, but it's always connected, right? And this is what Neville used to do in all of his books. So, and if you ever want to understand Neville deeper, join the Discord group. It's free. But if you ever want to go deeper with me in it, one-to-one, join, get in touch, find out more about the coaching packages, right? And I also have monthly payment plans as well. So do they believe it into existence? Yes. So belief is what creates, not your thoughts, not your emotions. You're using your thoughts and your emotions to create things in your world. Now, people are like, whoa, that still sounds like woo. No, it isn't. If you believe that you are afraid of heights, what are you going to do? You won't mess with jumping out of an airplane. So then you just created the experience. You manifested the experience of avoiding heights, right? So everybody's manifesting, everybody's creating, everybody's experiencing. So everything's all down to the first person, right? Meaning, what am I experiencing? Now, I can use manifestation for others, but only use it in a way in which you would want it to be used for you, right? So that's the main criteria right here. Okay. So remember, let's go back to states for 1 second, because what manifests? So when I say that emotions don't manifest, feelings do. That sounds like I just said the same thing and I'm contradicting myself. Let me make sense of that in a second, because people get really pissed off and really judgy, but also like owning. Like, no, Neville only said feelings manifest. Okay, people are misunderstanding what he's saying when he says that, okay? And so we're gonna, I actually have a spectrum that I created that shows what he means, okay? And this is how you manifest. So when I say emotions don't manifest, music, you're awesome. Well, I hope you can jump on more music, get in touch, join the Discord if you're not on there. But thank you so much. I'm probably gonna still be doing lives for a little bit, so make sure you jump on when you can. Good to see you. And so, back to this. And so, sorry, I just want to make sure that this is all making sense, because I know that some people are new to this and I don't want that to be a turnoff, okay? But like, the state is basically something that you're creating, that you're experiencing. Everybody's experiencing a state right now. You're experiencing a state right now as you watch this, okay? Maybe you're in the state of, I want to learn. Maybe you're in the state of, who is this guy? Maybe you're in the state of, I'm just passing through. You're in the state of, whatever it is. A state is simply just a belief. If you can think of, like, for example, I believe trees are beautiful. Okay, well then I'm going to look and I'm going to see that trees are beautiful. So that's what a state is. It's a belief, but it's a series of beliefs. So every belief that you have has an ecosystem of other beliefs that support it, okay? So it's never just one belief, never. A state is never one belief, but a state is held together by three things, not one thing. This is where a lot of people get this wrong. Hi, Tori. A lot of people get this wrong in manifestation circles when they hear the work of Neville Goddard. A state is never one thing. It's always one. It's a series of beliefs that's held together by two other things. Your memories, and what did we just talk about at the beginning of this? Your memories, right? It's held together by your memories and your emotions. Yes, if you've read Neville Goddard, you're going to try to correct me and say he's talking about feelings. Let me explain what that means, because I'm going to share with this new neuroscientific research, and then I'm going to give you some techniques to help you boost your skills in manifestation, right, from NLP. And so again, a state is what? A belief, but not one. It's a series of beliefs that's always reinforced by these two other things: your emotions behind the memories and the memories themselves. So a lot of people will come to me, even in my coaching programs, right? And they'll say, well, yeah, but look I changed the belief and it's still not manifesting. Or I changed the memory and it's still not manifesting. You need to change all three of these. You need to change the memory behind the limiting belief or fear, right? Of like, let's say you're trying to manifest somebody back that is nice to you, right? And they're actually, and yet you have a belief that people are always mean to you, right? And then that triggers a memory of where you were like neglected as a child. You need to change all of that. You need to change the emotion behind the neglect, not feel neglected. And this takes time, right? And you might need to go to therapy. You might need to use your friends. You might need to meditate. You might need to use other tools outside of you. That's okay. Don't depend on those tools, but know that they might be given to you to help you get to where you want to go, right? Don't become an addict and be like, I need to meditate today or I'm not going to be able to manifest. Guess what you just did? You created a belief system and a rite of passage, which means a rule that you have to go through before anything can ever happen for you, right? And so, and I like what you just said, Kenyon, and I'm gonna get to that right now. As you know, what you're operating on though matters. What that means is what your beliefs are the engine to your experiences in life, right? But most of those, unless you change them, are fueled by your childhood fears, okay? Because Jean Piaget, the guy that I referenced earlier, argues that everybody will have a map of the world, right, by the ages of 5 to 8. So that means by the ages of 8, everything you think is possible in the world is already locked in. And then so what's going to happen is you're going to go through life and you're going to use that map to measure your own progress and the progress of others and the progress of politics, the progress of religion, progress of whatever it is based on this one map, unless you change them. Okay? And so basically what I want to do is I want you to understand that the state is who you are. The state is the body of beliefs that you currently accept as true. But they're not one belief, which means there's always, all right, let me make sense of that, okay? Because people are like, yeah, but I don't understand what you mean by body of beliefs, right? Ooh, Lana, and by the way, Lana, I didn't come back to your question. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna come back to yours up there as well. And welcome, by the way. And so, yes, that's a very good way to say that. And I'm gonna actually come back to that. So I'm gonna pin that. So please stay on, because I am gonna go through, right? So there's no such thing as bad or good, by the way. So I'm answering your question right out now, Tori. Even if that's a trolling question, maybe it's not, but I'm just saying. So if you have a belief, let's just choose some dumb example, right? Let's say somebody has a fear of water, which actually that's not a dumb example. Some people do. It's called hydrophobia. But then that means you have this one core belief around an identity. Okay, this one core belief that water is a threat. Okay, but guess what? What that means is now there's another belief along the way that has been formed, usually by memories. Okay, last time I went to the beach, somebody saw a shark. Okay, and by the way, this doesn't have to be your experience. This could be something you saw in the news. Oh, the news reported that there's a high risk of shark attacks this year. Okay, boom, that's gonna reinforce your initial belief. Okay, got it? Are you with me so far? And then you might go, okay, so then last time, my cousin almost drowned. Okay, so there you go, another one, right? And then all these beliefs are gonna form like a closed feedback loop, right? They're gonna feed each other, okay? And then that's gonna lead back to an initial memory, which is, oh my gosh, somebody drowned when I was young. Or, oh my gosh, I remember being thrown in the water and not knowing how to swim. Or whatever it is, it's gonna be some sort of memory that is going to feed all of these beliefs unless you go in and change the memory. But it's not just that, you change the emotion behind the memory, okay? And so, and Tori, even if that wasn't like a legit question, I'm gonna come back to it because I think it's actually good for this conversation. And Lana, I'm gonna come back to your question and your comment on source states. Because I'm actually working on something for my coaching program called source states. So it's really cool that you brought that up. So are you with me so far? So that's how states work. But that's your belief system. That's what you're experiencing now. Now, I wanna share with you this piece of neuroscience. This is really crazy. Remember how we talked about addiction so far, right? And after this, by the way, I'm gonna come back and we're gonna go back through all of these comments and questions and stuff. So please stay on, and I'm gonna give you 2 or 3 NLP techniques, psychological techniques to help you next level, right? And you can see some of my videos on here. I think there is one called 3 NLP techniques. I also have a free ebook if you join the Discord, which is free anyways. So it's free and free, right? Yes, you'll hear stuff in there about the coaching program, but you'll also have almost 100 other people involved. So basically, yeah, so here, let's see. Why don't we just, Hater, I was trying to just give you the benefit of the doubt there, buddy, but I think you're just becoming a distraction. So we're just going to move on. Let me see. Sorry about that, everybody. All right, so there we go. So, okay. And I will come back to your questions. So let's go back to this idea here, okay? And I'm just gathering my thoughts, okay, so here's this new research. This is crazy. Okay, you know how we're told not to feel certain emotions, or you really don't want to feel rage or upset or anything like that, like in the law of attraction community, which I do not agree with. Feel those so-called bad emotions. No emotion is bad unless you think it's bad, unless you've been taught it's bad. And even spirituality gets this wrong. Even law of attraction gets this wrong, right? This is why I like Neville, because he says your body's an emotional filter. And then in another place, he's like, listen, basically this is what he says. And I'm in interpreting what he's saying, but he's actually quoting the Bible from it. Basically, he's like, listen, if you want to get pissed off, blow up, get pissed off. Why? Because you've got to get rid of it. If you don't get rid of it, all the emotion just sits up within you and bottles up within you. Now, there's a great book that I always encourage most of my clients with, and that is called The Body Keeps the Score. You can pretty much get it on Google by putting the word PDF after it. The Body Keeps the Score. Great book. Very psychological. Okay? And so what you got to understand, though, is that when you're in these states are signposts. Right? They're telling you this is where I'm at. This is where my beliefs are. This is where my limiting beliefs are. This is where my hurt is. This is where my pain is. Okay? The temptation, though, is to keep telling that story because it's so much better and safer to be, not better actually, but it feels so much safer to play the victim, right? And law of manifestation is about taking responsibility. You never go first to they did this, they said that. It's like, why does that trigger me? Always go there. I've trained myself to do this. Right? The first thing, if I get into a disagreement, isn't, oh, they said this, or they did this, or the environment did this. I don't care. The first thing is, what is it teaching me about me? Right? That's taking responsibility. Okay? We don't do that very well, especially in America, because we've learned the whole Adam and Eve thing, where we just keep blaming and blaming and blaming, right? And we look for other things. Well, the whole idea of manifestation is, I'm experiencing shit in my world because I've created it, right? And so the buck stops here. Always. Never, not once, will it always have to do with somebody else. Doesn't mean other people aren't involved. Doesn't mean other people don't have responsibility. Okay? But what it does mean is that it always starts with you and ends with you, right? Part of the process might be seeking healing in that relationship with that person. Great. I'm all for it, right? But never make that the point. Don't try to change things outside of you first. Neville says, if you do this, if you make your life about trying to change things outside, you'll always fail, no matter what. Yes, you can point to people who become billionaires. Are they happy? No. Guess what? If you look up stats, one of the highest suicide rates are billionaires. Why? Because they're not happy. Now, I'm not against money. I want you to manifest all the billions that you want. Me too, right? I'm not against money. The point isn't that. The point is that everything comes from inside first. Okay, hence why this is very important, by the way, and I do see more comments, so please notice I am recognizing it. I will come back to them. I want to share this piece of research. It's a very, very powerful piece of research. What they found now is that when you are in a state of rage, let's say, or if you create a personality around anger or mood, it's kind of like what you're saying here, Kenyon, right? And if people know you a certain way, okay, and that you've got locked in to a mood, you got locked into a set of emotions. Check this out. Your brain, this is really crazy, and this is why we talked about addiction, okay? If you do it enough, if you repeat it enough, okay, all right, what happens is your brain gets the neurochemical signature locked into a point that it creates a personality around those cocktail of emotions like anger, rage. This is what's happening, by the way, on social media. And by the way, as somebody who used to work and used to advise social media companies, I know exactly how algorithms work. And most of them are built around rage. They want you to rage. So when you go on Twitter, when you go on X, whatever you want to call it, when you go on Instagram and you rage, you're feeding the machine, right? And you just manifest more of it, which means you're going to experience more of it, right? And so what they found out, and this is it, this is so cool. Well, it is cool and it's not cool, but is basically once you start feeding it and it becomes a habit, the emotions become the habit. And I'm talking about the bad ones, right? The anger, not bad ones, because I don't believe any emotion's bad, but is basically what ends up happening is it creates a neurochemical signature in your brain. It says, I love that. So even when you're not in the mood to be mad, even when you may be having something happy and you go straight to anger because it's your default state, or what Lana was saying, like your like source state, and you rely on that, right? Then what happens is your brain itself becomes addicted to it so much so, this is crazy, it will actively go out and look for you for reasons why you need to keep feeling that way. Did you hear that? You have full on gotten into the place where you have trained your brain like chemically, and getting rewarded for it, neurochemically, so much so that it's almost like you told your brain, go on autopilot. And then while you're on autopilot, I want you to look for other opportunities for this to be the same, right? And so this is crazy. You really, really need to realize this because you are manifesting from your feelings behind the memories. This is why you change your memories and change the feeling behind the memories. Okay, yes, you need a strong emotion to have a strong feeling. People disagree with this because they focus so much on what Neville means when he says feelings, which he means you need to know, right? It's a spiritual knowing, it's a confidence, it's a conviction. I know for sure I'm this. But it's what Neville's saying is that the feeling, which by the way, is an interpretation of the emotion. Check this out, fact check me, because people really get angry that I keep focusing on emotions, right? This is why, because Neville went straight to the interpretation of the emotion. He didn't talk about the emotions, and he even said, feelings aren't emotions. I'm not talking about that. Guess what? I am. And so Neville, I don't think was very helpful in actually jumping to feelings, right, without explaining where feelings come from. I've literally got a list of about 20 different neuroscientific articles that will show you you can't have feelings without emotions. You need emotions to birth the feelings, because the feeling is interpreting the emotion. So what does that mean for manifestation? What does that mean for you, right? All of that kind of good stuff. And so basically, what's happening? Sorry guys, I'm just clearing up the room a little bit. And so what does that mean? And no worries. This is what I do. I love what I do. Like a lot of coaches are out just to get money. Of course, that's part of what I do. I get paid to do what I do, but it's because I'm good at what I do. And I don't say that as a jerk or anything like that. I just like what I do. And so, Raheem, I do see your questions. I want to go back to Lana's as well, and then go make my way back up to Kenyon as well. So, okay. So, basically, you need to form a strong emotion that gives you the interpretation that you already have what it is that you want. Okay, so if it's a house, you'd feel excited, elated. You may be celebrating with your friends. Create a scene from the first person of them having a home warming party, right? House warming party. They have maybe the banner up and saying, welcome home, right? And you have all your friends and your besties there, all this kind of stuff. And you feel that. And you keep repeating that scene of you clinking the champagne glass or, you know, whatever you drink, right? And you keep repeating that scene and you do it day in and day out until it shows up, right? And so that's how you operate the imagination. And it's always being operated. So whether you say, I don't believe this and this is BS and it's woo-woo, go ahead, live your life. But if you learn how to control it, that's the key. That's what this is all about. So when Neville says feelings are the secret, what he's saying is conviction. Can't go straight to, I'm a billionaire. I know money comes to me easily. I know my life is easy. I know my life is adventurous. I know I'm lucky, right? I know. But if you can't get there, use the feelings to get there. This is why I said earlier, I have this little thing that I'm sharing in the Discord, right? That I'm sharing in the Discord that will show you the spectrum and how you get there, right? And how you get from feeling to conviction. Okay, let me go back to Lana. Hi, what about telling people about what you are manifesting as if it's true now? Even though you know deeply that it's not the truth, at least not yet, is the not yet mindset okay while applying? Okay, so, okay, what she's saying, if you're new to manifestation, is that, is the not yet mind, well, there's actually kind of two questions that I want to deal with there, Lana. I'm actually not against people telling other people that they're manifesting something. But the reason why you don't is, for example, when you're talking to friends about your issues and fears and all that kind of stuff, you're leaking and getting rid of that energy, right? It's the same thing when you're telling people positive stuff. You're letting that energy out, okay? So that's one major reason why he says don't tell people about your manifestations. But then he also says in another place, and nobody ever focuses on this one quote from him, but he says, the brave man, meaning person, not gender, but the brave person is the one who can confidently go through their day or life and say, I'm going to have this in my life. I'm going to go to this place. I'm going to do this, right? But for the most part, he says, don't do that because you're leaking energy. You're giving it away. So if someone makes you doubt, you've given away all of that energy, right? And so that's going to be down to you, right? Whether you tell a person or not, because there's certain issues where you're like, yeah, I know I'm going to get up and go to work tomorrow. So then you're going to tell them that, right? So in terms of the not yet mindset, I would say it's not great, honestly. I know that law of attraction kind of says it's okay, but Neville argues against it. Joseph Murphy argues against it. Emmett Fox argues against it. Flora Scovel-Shinn argues against it, right? And the reason being is because you're not it. And so actually Alan Watts even says that, right? That you only have the now. Meister Eckhart, Eckhart Tolle, all these other people are saying it's always about the now. So you are it now. You never want to have a gap, because then you've allowed the gap, right? Does that make sense, Lana? Yeah, so you have to connect it as if it already exists, like Kenyon said, right? Which I think is a good way to say it. So memories are like source states. Okay, so I'm making my way downtown, right? Sorry, I have that song stuck in my head. And I also saw her in concert. So smoking Adderall, okay, I'm gonna actually come back to that. So memories are like source states. So I'm actually working on something, creating for my client and for the Discord group. And so resource states are states. Remember, there are bodies of beliefs that you can fall back on. Okay, and that means the ones that you're dominant, means the ones that you can trust, the ones that you can even fall back to, right? So if you're like, I feel safe in the world, and you've always felt safe because you grew up in a safe household, and feeling safe is not a big deal for you, that's a resource state. It's something that you confidently can recall and use, and you can actually use this resource state, right, as a way to call back. Like, let's say you're trying to manifest money, but you don't feel safe about it. Well, then take the resource state of feeling safe about yourself as a person, right? And then transfer that idea to money, okay? It may take you a while. There's also called quantum jumping, and I'll talk about that in another one, because that one's gonna probably take about an hour as well. Right? And so again, these are resource states, right? These are things that you can call upon that you already know about yourself to be true, and things that you don't doubt, but then you can actually transmute or change this feeling of safety or courage or confidence from this issue to this issue, if that makes sense. So Tori, you said I smoke Adderall. Is that bad? I know that might have been just a random question. The only reason why I want to deal with that is because there's no such thing as right or wrong. That is down to you, right? Okay, Kenyon, people always tell me my mood and attitude never changes. I say it's because I have a bad memory. Don't say that. See, this is what I'm saying. Watch how you say stuff. Whenever you say something, right, and this is the psychology of it as well, Sigmund Freud, check out Freud, right, is your unconscious is always on. Or if you're like Neville, who was Jungian, which means he followed the work of Carl Jung, then he's gonna talk about the subconscious. God is your subconscious. The subconscious is always listening. So if you start saying phrases like you have a bad mood or a bad memory, guess what's gonna happen? It's gonna show up, right? And so what you wanna start saying is that you have a great memory. You can always have great recall. I always recall, like I even ask the inner self, show me memories that I need to revise. And that's what I would encourage you to do as well, right? That's awesome. Well, great to have you, Tori. That's awesome. Kenyon, thank you for being here. Is it helpful to script my entire life and live in my head from it literally all day long? Kind of like delusionally constantly living in the end and thinking thoughts from a version of myself. I feel like it might be easier to do than to be trying to manifest one desire at a time. It's so draining to do that. Okay. All right. So you're asking a very, very loaded question, Raheem. And I'm going to try to answer it. Okay. I'm not going to probably do it justice. But I'll probably have to answer this in another one. So please pin that question and bring it back as well. I'm gonna answer as much as I can right now though. And if you're listening, one, thank you for being here. Two, if you can press a like, because that gets the algorithm out there. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you're looking for coaching, email me. My email's in my bio. I can send you over all the details. So, okay, so Neville says to do this, by the way. He says we should be doing this morning, noon, night. Now, the reason why people hear that and they think that's just being delusional is because they don't realize, because we're environmental beings. And that's a very scientific understanding of what's happening. Meaning, we're taught as very young children and in school predominantly, you should look to your environment. You should read the environment. You should be an environmental communal being. Those are all true. Go for it. I love people, for example, so I love community, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But the reality is that everything that you're doing, everything originates from meaning, which happens in the mind, right? And so what he's really saying when he says do this morning, noon, and night, he's saying you're already going to be giving things meaning. So then now what you do is you now participate in that meaning building, building meaning, right? You are controlling the meaning making process. So a lot of people feel exhausted when they first do this, okay? Because your brain, and you've been taught to think this, and this is why, because you've been conditioned to think this, that your brain is lazy. Not lazy in the fact that it's not working, but that processes just do their own thing, right? They're just chilling in a cafe and they're doing that. That's wrong. That's actually, there's no neuroscience that ironically would agree with that. So what we've been taught in schools is extremely wrong. Your brain is not inert. Your brain is constantly active. So what he's trying to encourage people to do is saying, since your brain is already active, be actively involved in making the meaning of whatever you're experiencing in the moment, the meaning that you would have if it was the most ideal moment you could ever have. So if you're hanging out with your niece and you're like, this is the best moment ever, great, then you're doing it right? But if you're like, oh, I'm still worried about my not being able to pay my bills, right? And I'm not trying to like downplay those concerns, right? What I'm saying is that if you're still in your head and you're giving meaning that isn't serving the moment, meaning being present, right, with whatever you're doing, then you've lost that moment. Now, Neville says don't believe in loss, which means when I said that you lost that moment, you can get it back, right? So are you with me? Like, are you guys with me so far? So with that, yes, I would say you want to get actively involved in creating meaning everywhere you go all the time, right? But after a while, it's going to become so natural that okay, in between jobs, or let's say you're going from, let's say, a job interview to go and hang out with your best friend. You know that you have that time gap. Okay, it's going to take me 10 minutes to walk here. Okay, in that 10 minutes, shift. Be like, okay, I just walked away from a job interview I know I'm going to get, right? There you go, because that's conviction. You already know you're going to get it. Boom, confidence. Problem is, we're always future thinking. This is what Jim Carrey says. We're always future thinking, right? And so rather than trying to create the present, which is, I got the job, move on, we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't get the job, blah, 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 blah. So then by the time you get to go hang out with your friend, you're not thinking about hanging out with your friend. You're thinking about, oh my gosh, what if I don't get the job? What if I can't pay bills? What am I going to do? Do I need to call my mom? And you create all these random scenarios that haven't even happened, right? And so that's what he means. Like, you've got to get out of this cycle of thinking about the worst case scenario and living from the worst case scenario. Everywhere you go in life, that's really actually a better way to actually say this, Raheem. And this maybe even make it easier for you if you're new to Neville's concept, is that always be living from the best case scenario. That's it. That's all you got to do. So when he says live in the imagination morning, noon, and night, live from the best case scenario in every circumstance that you ever consider, right? Does that make sense? And my battery is going to be going pretty soon. Kenyon, I know I started saying I have, yes, yeah, say I have a memory that I love, right? Sorry, I have memory, I just had to check the time. Okay, no, sorry, my battery, I got a few percent left. So, yeah, and so, I have a healed memory, or I'm able to recall fast. People are impressed by how fast I recall things, right? Rebecca, welcome. So let's see, we were dating every day, but 2 days ago I felt insecure on the street and he started to talk about an ex and I got triggered and then we split. He blocked me, okay. But I reacted differently. I didn't chase and go back to affirming. Okay. So Rebecca, in terms of your situation, okay, everything around you is a mirror. So it's only showing you, and you've already actually, to be honest with you, you probably didn't know this, because the way you just wrote that means I know it's coming from me, right? And so you have to figure out where the trigger is. And I guarantee you it has nothing to do with that person in your life. Even if you have memories that have triggered you in your relationship, it goes way back before that. Almost all of our triggers are childhood related, right? In fact, I would almost go on the record and say 99% of our memories that trigger us into reacting from places we don't want to react from are all bound up in our childhood experiences, right? And so what you can do, Rebecca, is revise that. And revise means you're going in and you're changing the memory and you're changing the feelings behind the memory and you're actively revising it every day in and day out. And you actually are acting upon it then. So how would this new person, this new version who didn't trigger, feel about this circumstance? Oh, so then what you do is you give it a meaning and be like, oh, so he was talking about an old friend. He wasn't talking about an SP. He was talking about whatever, right? So you change the so-called facts in that conversation until it feels real, right? And you keep changing it until it feels real. You don't give up on it, right? And then lo and behold, you start loving yourself, or whatever that trigger shows you, you start doing that, right? And so if you felt neglected, then you do self-care. You take care of yourself, right? And know that you deserve it, okay? So I liked how you put feelings, other emotions, when people say that they need to feel neutral. But honestly, I feel like I should feel what I genuinely would have. Yes. So I'm not big on neutral. Like somebody wrote today, oh my gosh, like the one ingredient that I've missed all along in manifestation is that I need to let go. Here's the thing. I disagree with that. I don't think that you need to let go, right, of the new emotion. That would be like telling somebody, stop being excited. Don't be excited. Don't be joyful. Don't be anticipating good things. No, what that person really means to say is that what they've let go is the old story of not having, and now they have. So that's the relaxation, is when you get to the point, that's the relaxation, is when you get to the point of, I know I'm it. I know I'm the house owner. I know I have this SP in my life. I know I'm married. I know I'm loved. I know I'm confident. Whatever it is that you want. And remember, don't just use the law for things. Do use the law for things, but don't just do it. Give yourself skills. Learn guitar. Learn another language. Create a scene where people are like really like wowed by how fast you learn the language, right? Whatever it is, give yourself skills, right? Feeling neutral about my desires just feels like pretending to me. Yeah. So natural means from the new state, right? Natural is not the same as neutral. So I'm glad you brought that up, Lana. Like, natural is, it's like when an artist gets up and they paint. It doesn't feel like they're efforting it, right? And so you get to the point where it feels natural. And when it does, everything else will fall into place. And that's where you go from, right? Yeah, yeah, comparison and feeling not enough. Thank you, you're amazing. He is going to study psychology too. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so I mean, again, just work on the self-concept. I'm gonna do another one on the self-concept and the psychology of that, maybe even tomorrow, actually. I would love to do this more because you're all awesome. But my battery is gonna go pretty soon. And tomorrow I'm actually gonna have it connected. So, and I'm probably gonna try to come on around the same time. Anywhere from like 11:30 to 1 o'clock, something like that, my time, PST. But, if you're looking for coaching, get in touch. Science-backed, psychology-backed. This is not about woo, any of that stuff. Yes, you deal with mystical concepts, but I try to make them as practical as possible. And I'm big on mental health, so this is not about trying to make you like bust a vein, trying to make you manifest, because everything is supposed to be small and incremental, right? So the artist gets up every day as he's learning to become an artist and uses different colors. He doesn't try to do everything all at once. This is the problem with manifestation. People freak out and they're like, I need to use it for this, I need to use it for that, I need to use it for this. No. Small steps, right? Because the problem is that people mostly come to manifestation because they're in some sort of emergency situation, right? And that's not what I want for you. I want you to get to the point where you're like, this is so natural to me. This is so natural to who I am, right? So, back to what I was saying earlier about becoming an addict. Choose the addiction that serves you as a person who is manifesting the life of your dreams, right? Only do the habits that help you become the best version of yourself, and only perform and participate in behaviors that get you to where you want. Ignore all the other ones. And if people are in your life that are triggering you, ask why, not why are they still here and why is it their fault? No, it's not. It's in fact, I would say it's nobody's fault. It's just that it's triggered and reminded you of something that you need to heal from, right? And so, I want healing for everybody here. I want everybody to have the best life ever. That's what I want. I love what I do, So thank you for being here. Thank you for being on. Thank you all for being here, actually. And again, get in touch. Check out my bio on here. There's an email you can get in touch if you want to have questions. Join the Discord group to ask questions amongst other people like you. Join the Reddit under OK-Initiative. That's my handle, OK-Initiative. Please manifest great things for yourself. That's, be aware of what you're manifesting and actively be involved in that process because you're capable of doing that. And I know that's what you are already doing. So now it's your turn to actually be the operant power, to be the person who creates everything, right? Yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you all, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. If not, make sure you watch this back and leave any questions on that as well. So much love to you all, and I will talk to you soon. Manifest well.